There's just a lot about the so-called, gender affirming care that isn't what people said it was. And I think the WPATH files, which were the internal discussion board files of this main gender medicine organization, they revealed that the people that prescribing the drugs, doing the surgeries, that they knew and know that the kids and the parents don't understand that there's this, you know, consequence of lifelong sterility or loss of sexual function. They were also describing situations of homeless people that were in psychotic states wanting to have genital surgeries, describing children as young as 13, 14 that want to go on puberty blockers or take cross-sex hormones, not understanding what that is. So there's a lot to unpack there, but
Mm.
basically, and I should say that was a set of files that had been taken to other journalists, and those journalists had decided not to do the story. We got them. We tried to do 3 different stories out of it. It was too much. We ended up doing a full report. It took us almost a year that did had the files, but then also had a 70-page introduction that went through the best available science. That report has now been really, validated by the British government, which had a pediatrician come out with a report,
The
and
cast
they've
report.
now the CAS review, and they've now banned puberty blockers nationwide. And the conservative government did that, but the new Labour Party government, which is their left-wing government, they came in and affirmed that they were going to maintain the complete ban on puberty blockers.
So I want to back this all the way up
Yeah.
with when, just for myself personally, I started to kind of hear about this because I never would have thought this was possible ever. And my running thing is, of course, this has become a political football like everything else, in particular with health. I haven't changed my positions. Actually, the world is just moving like this around, or rather more just like this. And I believe I remember it was the first time I had heard about it was with Abigail Schreier's book, Irreversible Damage.
Yep.
And the subtitle, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. And this is in 2020. And I remember this coming out on Rogan and thinking, like, who would do such a thing to kids? No, this is silly. This is ridiculous. This has got to be so fringe.
Yes.
And then down the road, you've got then Bruce Jenner turns into Caitlyn Jenner, and this is great. And everybody's like, neat. Okay, cool. We're supportive. We're so liberal. Good. And then J.K. Rowling starts getting bashed, and all of this is happening. And now I see this episode. Someone sends me an episode of Tucker Carlson. And at first I was like, oh my God, Tucker's so far right. And I was like, I can't take this come on now. And I end up watching it, and it's with this gentleman, this guy, Chris Moritz, I believe, who starts talking about Trans Inc. and all of the money Big Pharma is making on these drugs. And it's almost $1 trillion business, I think, across the board. And I'm like, okay, wait, what is happening here? This is insane. Is this really going on? Cut to the beginning of this year. You guys released WPATH and the CAS report, or CAS review comes out.
Yep.
So to clarify, for everybody who doesn't know, the CAS review took 4 years. One of the greatest pediatricians in the United Kingdom was, correct me please if I'm off base here, was tapped by their National Health Services to do a systemic review of every single study on gender-affirming care. 388 pages, 4 years, one of the top most respected politicians. And after all of that work, she comes out and she basically says this is deeply flawed, right? And she gives a list of reasons that are extensive. Poor quality research. The review found evidence from medicalized treatment of adolescent gender distress was, quote, inadequate and poor. Lack of definitive proof. The review found no definitive proof that gender-affirming care resolves or alleviates gender dysphoria in children or teenagers. Over-medicalization. The review found that there's been an over-medicalization of gender-questioning young patients in recent years, with 27% of patients who had 2 or more appointments referred to endocrinology for a medical transition. Diagnostic overshadowing, everything you're saying. Could they have been autistic? Could they have been under distress in other ways? None of that was addressed or cared for. Affirmation, the list goes on and on top of what alarms me the most. And it really is such a ridiculous list. We'd be here all day. The fact that these children, they have lasting health effects of this. Of course they do. Their teeth are cracking. Their bones are snapping. Their brain's not developing properly. You're interrupting puberty. Their brain is developing. Like, this is the most alarming. If you want to get older and you want to make these transitions to your body, by all means, it's your body.
Right.
But when the brain is developing and they're telling us that it's reversible. Oh no, don't worry. This is nothing. This is totally reversible. Cut to all these countries pulled back, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
The UK pulls back, Finland pulls back, Sweden pulls back, right? All these countries are like, uh-oh. The evidence seems to be overwhelming that maybe we should chill out on this for a while with kids and really take a look at the data. But in the US, we doubled down. And the way we did it was the W path.
Right.
So every single critique that you read against the Cass review is because the world's authority, the W path, has just shot holes with all of their evidence on how she's wrong. And then you come out with the W path files. And so what exactly is the W path, by the way? Let's dig into even their name. What the hell is this organization?
So it stands for the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, but it's not a true medical or health organization in the sense that it's not run by people that are really qualified or scientists. It's really run by activists. And so that comes out in the files. And so what's so shocking about the files, because it's the internal discussions that somebody leaked to us or some buddies leaked to us, it just shows them sort of making this up as they go along. The story, the official story that WPATH tells is they say we're science-based and evidence-based,
Oh,
and
we're everything. Yeah, we're the authority.
we're the authority. We're making recommendations on how to deal with gender dysphoria.
All the main hospitals cite them, though.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I don't want to talk out of turn, but it's like the Johns Hopkins of the world. It's the
right.
Mayo Clinics. It's keeping it real with Jillian Michaels.